Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC, and with me is,
Wolf.
and we're continuing our Kawabangin adventures. This is the best I got. What can you do? Because now we talked about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem last week, and now we're going to talk about the new Ninja Turtles show, which continues it. If you got Paramount Plus, I don't blame you if you don't, but if you do, you probably already saw it, and I'm not really sure what the general consensus about this one is, but interestingly enough, this is a not necessarily a sequel because there is an actual theatrical sequel coming, but this does take place where Mutant Mayhem left off. This is the first time that the TMNT show was inspired from one of the movies. There were movies inspired by some of the shows, but this is the first time we're getting a show which continues a movie, so that's interesting. And honestly,
It's supposed to be a
good show
bridge.
so far.
It's supposed to be a bridge series, right? It's supposed to be a series
I
that
guess,
covers the gap between film one and
yeah,
film
I
two, is
guess,
what I
I
saw.
guess a bridge. Yeah, I guess a bridge series is a good enough way to refer to it. This is definitely you're not sure if this is exactly but it's the race to the edge of How to Train Your Dragon. Of How to Train Your Dragon. I'm
No,
confusing the franchises now.
that's correct.
Yeah, it's the race to the edge of TMNT. That's funnily enough, Christopher Mintz Plaza is in this show.
I did not notice him.
Neither did I, and then I opened Wikipedia.
Fair enough.
So So anyway, Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not to be confused with the title that they gave the 2012 version in its final season, but kind of a similar structure, as in like how that season, the season of that show was structured in like a few episodes telling one story, and then the next few episodes are essentially telling a different story, kind of like an anthology. This kind of does the same, although there are less stories to go around. The season is 12 episodes long, but there are two arcs, each one lasting 6 episodes.
Yeah, it's basically two side stories and put together to make a season of a television show.
hmm
And you liked this? You enjoyed this one?
I
Yes or
did.
no?
Yes, I overall I really enjoyed it. What about you?
I did not.
Oh, this is gonna be
I I did not enjoy this one all that much.
okay.
I love the
Interesting.
movie, but this show was nowhere. It's just not as good. The movie great, the show I'm very on it right now.
Okay, so you know what? I'll just say one of the things I do like is I enjoyed how this was structured at the very
No,
least.
I agree with that. I like how it's structured, 100%.
I like I like how in a way not only does it is it structured in the way that I kind of like that you have a few episodes telling one story, but I also like how to some degree each episode kind of focuses on a different turtle, on a different thing,
Hmm.
and it allows because I think one of the things that the movie did really well is to show the turtles functioning as a unit, and in here you get to see them also functioning as each one on his own, and I think that really helps. I also heard that apparently in the recording booth this time they allowed the actors to just be on their own and get to know their characters a bit more on a personal level. So I enjoyed that, and I think a lot of the turtles got a lot of stuff to do that way. Also, if you have a favorite, then you have the episode which concentrate on your favorite, and even the non-favorites get moments to shine. So I like that structure for the show.
I'll disagree with you a little bit. I agree with the structure. I think it was really interesting how they did the structure of the show, and I did like that. I think there still should have been more moments where they got all the actors together to, do what they did for the movie, which was riff off of one another. I thought, even though there were times where they went too far with it and it turned out to be not as funny, I still enjoyed that more because they could have, oh, sorry, hit the mic. They could have a bit more of that back and forth with one another, which I think works for the Turtles really well, considering these characters. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of that with this show, and we didn't really get that. And I think that was a bit of a letdown.
We
Number
get
one,
some, but it doesn't have necessarily the flow that the movie did.
yeah, and I think that's something the show misses out on, right? In my personal opinion, like that's something I think the show could have benefited a little bit more from.
Yeah. But another thing that I kind of that I found interesting that the movie had the quote unquote Spider Verse idea. We talked about it last time
Yeah,
that it's CG, but you see like the 2D elements from it. I was wondering how this was going to transit into a fully 2D show, but I think they kind of managed to do this
well,
to the
they
best
did.
of their
They really
abilities.
kind of did their own style. They didn't really follow the movie at all, really,
Yeah, but like
as
you
far as
notice, like
style goes.
whenever there are lights flickering and stuff, it's kind of color like in the movie, and
Mm, yeah.
whenever there's smoke, that's kind of like how they did in the movie. It's fully 2D, but I think they did their own style, but it's also you can kind of recognize that this is the Mutant Mayhem versions,
No, no, fair.
and
Again,
so
I thought again like no complaints about the animation in this one. It was really well done. Like the choreography for the fight scenes also looked fairly good. Maybe a little fast. Maybe you could have slowed it down a bit. But overall, it was still really good and really enjoyable to watch, and it looked really good, right? And it flowed fairly well. I would
yeah,
say something I also loved that they enjoyed. Something I also loved and enjoyed that they did with the animation was whenever the turtles, especially in the first like 6 episodes, right? Whenever the turtles had a solo thing or a retelling, like it was always in a
yeah,
completely different style, right? I loved
mhm,
how they changed up and played with their styles a lot throughout this show.
yeah. I
Like
agree
they
with
gave
that.
the animators the chance to just have fun, and it shows, right?
Mhm. And in a way that also doesn't really distract from the story,
Mm-mm.
but gives more, but it helps understand each turtle a lot more. Like because and so let me ask you this because you said you overall didn't enjoy this one.
Yeah.
So my question is, because you do enjoy like all the technical aspects? It's just I assume the way that and you like how the show is structured. So what bothered
What
you in
what really
particular?
bothered me, right, was that I number one, I have a few problems with this doesn't inherently feel like turtles, right? Like the turtles. There's a few things that feel off about it in my opinion. But the biggest thing for me though was I'm fine if you want to do something very different for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? Because there's been so much stuff out there of them. If you want to do a completely new and different iteration, right, that does something very different, like them being accepted everywhere, right? I'm fine with that. I think that's interesting.
Apparently happened in the original comics at some point. I
But
learned recently.
my issue, right, is that they had a really good idea and setup for the movie that isn't really continued here. Like if this is a bridge series, what they kind of purport and market it as, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's just two side stories that they, kind of taped together and said, "Hey, here's a show. Here's a season for a show. All right."
Which, to be honest, I think this is kind of a trapping you can't really avoid because obviously you can't do a direct continuation because then what's the sequel for? You
Which
can't.
I get, like they can't
I
cover
get
Shredder
it.
or anything like that, but like there's no hint of Shredder. There's no mention of I think it was like the TRCI or whatever it is, right? From the movie
DCRI, yeah.
TCRI.
Like
There's no mention
the
of
only
them
thing that
from the movie. There's no mention of Shredder from the movie other than like the purple dragons, and that's it. And even then,
Well, even the purple dragons is just something that they put in the. By the way, no, we are technically not in the spoilers section, but I don't think it's that much of a
I
thing to
mean,
say.
it's
The
the
purple
purple
dragons, like,
dragons. I feel like that's not
yeah,
a
like
spoiler.
they're a TMNT staple at this
Yeah,
point, so I'm not really. But I will say though, like obviously they can cover Shredder. They can't. They do mention
which is fair.
Superfly, obviously, but it's more like in that sense of remember when that happened,
Mm.
or just to show you some stuff that happened in the background and kind of have consequence. But overall, it seems like they want to. It does feel like this is like the oh we have those TMNT lore stuff that we can't really put in the actual movies, so let's put them in a sideshow. And I will say I also prefer the first plot a lot more to the second one.
Fair.
I don't really mind the second one. I just feel like it was the one that I felt less attached to.
The
But
villain of the first plot was really weak in my opinion, but other than that, it was still, I think the first plot was for the most part better. I think personally, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. I think personally, I prefer the second one a little bit more. But I will say, like the first one, I can understand and see how and why you would think it is stronger, and I would agree. I think it's stronger. I just preferred the second one more, in my opinion. Right?
okay, I guess this is the one. This is the one time we don't agree on anything. but
Maybe we'll
but
see. But
I will say though,
oh, go ahead.
because on the because you mentioned the it's not as connect as much of a bridge. It's just kind of a filler thing until the next movie. I think this is also the point where even though the Seth Rogen and all the other producers are involved with this, I'm pretty sure they are still developing the second movie, so they don't really know where things are gonna go. Ergo, I was going into this knowing that it's just going to be a fun time without much stakes. It's just
Which
going to be its own show. But I do get why it might it might take away from it in the grand scheme of things.
well,
I get it.
which is fair. Like I don't want to be too harsh on them because they are kind of like in that rock and a hard place, right? Where they have a sequel movie coming out, like Race to the Edge, and all of the How to Train Your Dragon shows had this problem too. There's probably plenty of things they would love to do and touch on and cover, but they can't because of the movie. And so they're in a very much in a rock and a hard place. I get it, but at the same time, I feel like there's at least some ideas you could have taken from the movie and carried forward, like the idea of the turtles being way more accepted. I feel like you could have done more with that, right? You didn't here. And
Like
I think
they just kind of
it's
it's
very
just implied
background.
that yeah it's to think this was like such a big deal in the movie that they want to be accepted by society, and to an extent they are, but it's also like it's more talking about, if anything, it's more talking about the people who can't accept mutants rather than the ones that do, and
Hell,
the ones that
you
do they're
have
just kind
like
of
the a big plot for the movie is the turtles want to go to school. I would have loved to have seen that. I would have sat here and watched a
uh,
couple episodes of turtle school life. That shit would have been
yeah,
super
that would
fun.
be
It would have
yeah,
been
that would
dumb
be
as hell, but I
interesting.
would have enjoyed it because it would have been
Like
different, especially for the
like
turtles.
yeah, like can you imagine like maybe Raphael would have like an exam anxiety, and he'll take the frustration out on his brothers, or Donnie gets in for the first time, gets into actual anime debates with people, and they treat him like a loser because he has an unpopular take or something. You see, I just came up with two plots. This writes itself. The Ninja Turtles in high school. Go nuts.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen at least like an episode or two of that, right?
hmm
Just as like an opener, as a chill opener, because I understand, right? This isn't going to be as high stakes as Turtles normally might be, right? Because again, you don't have things like Shredder or stuff like that. I fully get it.
But no, to be honest, you don't necessarily need Shredder, but I think again there is that elephant in the room. How much can they do when they have that second movie in the
Yeah.
background, and how much of it? And for all we know, the script is still being written. And let's be honest, scripts for any movie are being written up to the 11th hour,
Hmm.
so they don't really know what's going to happen in that until they release it, and that's like maybe 2 or 3 years away, I'm assuming.
But no, that's
I
again, it's
I
fair.
guess
Like,
again it's one of those.
I,
But again, it's fair, and personally, I don't mind in the grand scheme of things,
no, it's
because
fair.
I had a good time overall. Is it the best Turtles show out there? No, I won't go that far. And to be honest, I think this is the one that has the least identity of all the TV shows, because the original is the original.
Hmm.
2003 is the one that's darker and more faithful to the comic. 2012 is the is the one where that's that has the CG, and also kind of combined everything from all the previous incarnations to create
Mhm.
something new. And Rise has its animation style and leanness to comedy and over the top action. This one just continues the movie, and it does okay. The plots are okay. It's a just, but also don't go in expecting something like the next big Turtles show, because
No,
you
not
may
next.
not get it. Just if you like the TMNT like I do, you'll probably have a good time with it. It's not that much of a time waster, and I think most will walk away with this from with something.
Yeah, that's a fair set. I would agree with that. I think again, like I didn't hate my time with it. It just didn't appeal to me as much because I came into it wanting a thing from it, and I just didn't get that. Just understand, like it's not really going to give you anything that the movie gave you, and as long as I think you have that expectation, you'll still have some fun with this, right? It's not like this was a waste of time. This is terrible. This is absolutely god awful. No, it's fine. It's just wasn't for
This is
me.
not it's not the next mutation, it's not the Michael Bay movies. It's
Yeah, there's far worse for the turtles.
yeah, there are far worse. It's not Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 the movie, not the game, but there have been worse stuff with the turtles name on it.
Yeah,
This is not one of them. This is or it's perfectly serviceable.
yeah. It's one of those things of like this sits kind of in the middle. It kind of meh, right? Like there's definitely been better, but there's definitely been a lot worse.
I won't say meh. I would say that this I
Uh,
like if I well if to you yes, but I think like if I had to throw in a score, I'll say that like a 7.5 or an 8
that's fair.
is right is somewhere over there.
That's fair.
That's how it works. So with all that being said, I guess we can kind of jump into spoilers so that we can actually discuss what we liked and what we didn't like. So if you haven't seen the show, this is your chance to close the video and go watch it. Yeah. So spoilers in three, two, one. Okay. So are we doing this episode by episode or arc by arc? What do you prefer?
That is up to you. I think like
Mm,
arc by arc makes sense because they're all kind of connected, right? Like
Yeah,
the two
arc by
separate
arc.
arcs.
Yeah, arc by arc makes sense, but again, the way the arcs are structured, when each episode kind of focuses on one particular character, and then only near the end, all of them come together. I feel like maybe episode by episode is a good idea, but
It's up to
I
you.
will say this. I will say this in terms of like the arcs themselves. I did enjoy Leo's arc a bit more than Raph's arc, but and something not necessarily I could have mentioned, not wasn't sure if I should mention it in the non-spoiler or not, but this was a way to get to avoid not being able to get Jackie Chan to reprise Splinter.
Yeah, that was kind
that
of like I get it, but
that
at the same time, it's like you could have just got like if you couldn't find anyone who could even remotely sound like him, that's fine. I don't think anyone's gonna care. I would rather him have a voice than do what you did, but it
yeah,
works, I guess.
because again, for most of the part when he's actually talking in the second arc too, it's Raphael doing an impression, and it's like so. Just get someone, even if it doesn't sound like a Jackie Chan impersonation, just get someone.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have had a voice for Splinter,
Hmm.
but it is what it is. Like you did fine with it. Like you worked it into your story well enough, and it was fine enough. So like I'm not gonna
Yeah,
complain about it. It's just one of those things of like,
like it's
man, I
just one
can
of those things
tell
that,
you could not afford Jackie Chan money, Nickelodeon.
yeah. Well, to be honest, I get it. Having to afford them for like 12 episodes of a TV show is probably more than probably more than an entire episode's budget. But
Yeah, let's be
I'm not.
honest.
Then again, I also like because I think every character that comes back from the movie has their respective voice actors, so I guess they want to maintain continuity. But people don't really mind it. Again, we mentioned the Race to the Edge. People didn't really mind that in How to Train Your Dragon when some of the voices were inconsistent. some, I think, even in like the Kung Fu Panda shows and everything, people don't really mind it at the end of the day. So
Yeah, I mean, people don't really care as long as they have a voice and it sounds just similar enough. People don't care. They're gonna be like, all right, yeah, like
mhm.
it's one of those things of like I think most people can kind of just suspend their disbelief a little bit, right? It's like it doesn't matter to them at the end of the day. What
Yeah.
matters is the character having a voice and like being able to hear them talk
Also,
and in their voice.
Ninja Turtles fans are probably used to it because man, there were some inconsistencies back in the original '80s show. Like sometimes actors won't be available, so like for one episode they'll have a different voice.
Well, then yeah, TMNT definitely don't care. That's wild though.
And I should also mention that I should probably also mention Jason Biggs set a green thing from from 2012. But again, this is a whole other topic. Anyway, um, I will say about the first arc though. Something that I wasn't really clear on is that is the entire arc a story Leo wrote, or did it actually happen? I know it actually happened, and then maybe he drew the comic afterwards.
Yeah, I think
But
it's the latter, right? It's this thing that happened and Leo just drew the comic of it afterwards, but we're kind of like we're starting off with the comic, unless it is just completely made up, which feels really bad, right?
yeah, but okay, you know what? So in the overall idea of that arc is that so we have Doctor Josephina Bishop. So
Yeah.
this is this is this universe incarnation of Agent Bishop. Cool
Mhm.
idea. Again, not going to really, not going to harp about the gender bent or anything. Don't care. Honestly, don't care.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
I I enjoyed this take on Bishop, but they do the same thing where, you know what? Funny, this is also Nickelodeon, but it has the Legend of Korra problem, where the villain has an interesting way of thinking compared to the heroes, but then they just kind of ignore it in order to reach some sort of a conclusion because we don't have the time.
My only issue with with Bishop as a villain for this arc, right, is that it just feels so weak as motivation to become a villain. Like, okay, her robot was destroyed in the movie, right? Like that's kind of the thing they put it forward
Her
as, like
entire
Superfly.
research.
Yeah, but it like she made more robots immediately just to kill them. So what
Yeah.
did you
Eh,
lose exactly? Like,
You see, this is what I mean with rushed, because on the one hand, like if she had everything destroyed completely, then yes, I would see why she would be mad at the turtles. But then she made this robot army just to destroy the turtles.
she
So
wasn't even losing her funding. Like it would have been something if like okay, she's losing her funding due to like them wanting to focus on mutants and she's focusing on robots and nobody
exactly.
cares. Like give something here, like make it matter or make it to where like it's her sister Elena that like she's doing all of these things for, right? Because she didn't have any legs and she wanted to like make robots to make her life better and stuff like that. Like make it to where she died in the attack to Superfly.
There
Something
you
that's
go.
more motivation than no, my research. Well, make more robots immediately and go kill the turtles now because
And
they
I
ruined my day that one time.
Yeah, and again, this is a thing that I will point out. This has nothing to do with not knowing where the sequel is going. You brought this character in when it wasn't established in the first movie. You could have fixed this problem before it even happened.
Yeah.
A- Again, at the end of the day, I didn't mind that much because it does kind of play into the entire thing of mutants are just part of the everyday life. So obviously, some people are going to be a bit questionable about it. I
Hmm.
get that. That's interesting, but the way they did Bishop wasn't necessarily it wasn't handled well. From the motivation, like there are pieces of the puzzle there, it's just not fully realized to me. And the for the climax with her, it also kind of just felt like we had a redemption arc because that's how most of these stories end sometimes.
Which is fair. It's just like kind of one of those
Mhm.
things, right? At least for
Yeah,
me.
but again, it's just one of those that I like the idea that they were going for with her, and she was a credible threat, all things considered,
Mhm.
because she managed to split the turtles up, and each one of her bots was giving one of the turtles a run for their money,
I will
and then
say, oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, and whenever they all teamed up against her, they were still giving them a run for their money. Like she was a credible threat, and then it just kind of ended with, "Oh well, I guess I was wrong about mutants all along." And it's and then when she turns herself in, it kind of feels like nothing felt conclusive about this from how it started to where it ended.
Yeah. Now, you brought up a point. I wanna stress that point a little bit more because I didn't like
Yeah.
this point as much. Each of the
Hmm.
she gave each of the turtles a run for their money. Each of the robots was given the turtles a run for their money, is what you said, right? Like they were,
Yeah.
holding their own in a fight against the turtles. I
Hmm.
feel like they really weren't because I feel like the turtles really just weren't fighting all that well at all because they weren't doing anything that they're supposedly known for. Hi, I'm Leonardo in the first episode. I'm going to fight you with my sword. Oh, I lost my sword. All right, fist fight it is then. I'm not going to use my sword anymore, even though I have a second sword on my back that I could easily pull out.
Well, I get you there, but
Hi,
uh,
I'm Michelangelo. I'm not going to use the thing I'm known for, which is the nunchucks. Hi, I'm Donatello. I'm not going to use anything that could be used as a staff, the thing I'm known for. Hi, I'm Raphael. I actually do use my weapons. I'm the only one that does. Even though I'm mostly known as the physical one, I'm still going to use my weapons. What? They're literally not fighting the way they're known to fight. like I and they do
which
that throughout the entirety of this show. That's something that just bothered me in the background, and that's not the only thing. I'm going to have another complaint when we get to the second arc here in just a bit.
okay, I will say I get you. I understand where you're coming from. I'm going to assume what they were going for with this is that when it's each turtle on its own, they don't necessarily have the camaraderie that they usually have. Therefore, they're a bit off their game. That's supposed to be the point, from what I felt. But I get
It
you. I
doesn't
get what you.
feel as good in my opinion, especially cuz we had the movie. Like it feels like,
Yeah.
all right, they know how to fight. Let's go. They
Hmm.
shouldn't be struggling this much. But
Hmm.
again, this problem also goes into the next arc as well, where they were literally like you had all of the turtles, Splinter, and a bunch of other people, and they were getting their ass kicked by one goldfish who's only been a mutant for like a month or two at best,
Yeah.
and they've been
Like
mutants
that.
for
That
years.
You know what? If we're going to jump around, and I will say that fucking goldfish is.
And
I
I
want to.
liked that goldfish, by the way,
I ca-
as a
I kind
villain.
of like. I like the idea a lot. I like that he's just this fucking gangster who wants to be approved, but then again he also doesn't, and that that like he lies to his comrades being like, this is all about family, it's about family, and then,
Vin
he
Diesel.
just behind their back it's like, nah, fuck my family. and
Listen, you gotta be careful.
and
If you say it's all about family 3 times in a row, Vin Diesel will appear.
well, that's the thing. I feel like this fish was like the fish version of Vin Diesel. If Vin Diesel
Well, no, he
mutated into
can't.
a fish,
He's
but
not the fish version of Vin Diesel because Vin Diesel would never abandon his family for money.
that's true. That's true.
So
But
he's like the
I,
antithesis of Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel would look at this fish and say, and just be like disappointed in him, like you abandon your family for money. You're worth less than dirt, yo. That's how Vin
y-
Diesel would look at it.
you are not Groot.
Fair.
Well, with that being
But no,
said, what
I know like that's definitely
um
like for the Mechazoid, like as it got later on and they started getting more together and you saw more of the fight choreography going off, especially when they're fighting against like the Mechazoids when like they've changed their look, like you have the one with the axe hand and the one wearing like the poncho and like the hat and everything. That final fight for like episode 5, 6 looked really good, right?
yeah,
Like watching all of
and
them together, like then it's really good. It's like, all right, I'm enjoying this. I'm into this. But otherwise, I don't know. I didn't enjoy the fact that when they were solo, a lot of the time it was just me watching them get their ass handed to them more often than not. It's like this is
yeah,
like, and then eventually they kind of like luck into a win. It's like this.
I
is
will
fine, but
say
I'm not enjoying it as much as
with
far as
Don,
turtles
I
go.
think with Donnie though, Donnie's part was actually one of the stronger ones
No,
with
Donnie,
the
I
train.
agree. Like I like that one a lot.
Yeah,
That
that
one
was
worked
like
for him. It made sense for him.
yeah, that was a great one. I enjoyed Donnie's one the most. I think out of the in the first arc anyway. I liked Mikey's, but then again, Mikey's just my favorite, so I'm biased, I suppose. I enjoyed Wrath for because I don't know what they were thinking when they wrote Han in this show, but it cracks me up. I fucking love this version.
No,
Not
I really like
necessarily
the
for the
Purple
right reasons.
Dragons,
Yeah, and not necessarily for the right reasons, mind you. But this was with Raph and the Purple Dragons, this was comedy gold to me. That was so funny.
especially with this version of Raph too. I think it works really
Yeah.
well, right? With
hmm
Raph just really wanting to fight and antagonize everybody, and
hmm
this version of the Purple Dragons kind of being like, especially Han, just not into it at all. Just don't care. I thought that was
hmm
really good. I agree. That was a good
And
matchup.
that was a good matchup. And then again, it all kind of comes down to the climax, where again, love the idea. The resolution is a bit weak, and
Yeah,
so this is also the point where I ask you, what the hell did you think about Rod?
Rod was fine. He was kind of there. I don't know. I didn't really hate him, but I didn't really enjoy him either.
I will say the one thing it is I find the idea behind him funny that
Mm,
his dad is like the super rich CEO and like that in a way he will do anything just so for just so that Rod would have something to do in his life. And I kind of I find this idea kind of funny and in a way that interesting parent commentary. You get what I mean?
no, fair,
And
agreed.
yeah, interesting parent company about about how a person would just do anything and will pay whatever it is, whatever he needs to pay just to kind of make sure that he's taking care of the kid. And there is an extra funny, extra slash sad angle to it that Rod is an adult,
Yeah,
and so he's just paying this woman to just to give this person money, even though because essentially Rod is still living off of his father's money. It's just coming through a third party now. And there was something about it that kind of made me feel that kind of made it funny to me,
no, fair.
like just
I
how
agree with that.
pathetic this guy is. But then he finally finds something that he wants that he's passionate about, and that's becoming a fucking mutant. Sure.
It's the dumbest shit, and like it's also interesting as well because it's like the thing his dad's paying for, like billions of dollars into, is actually a really good thing that is or was working until Bishop just went fucking insane for no reason.
Yeah, to be honest, he was, Rod, thanks to his father, Rod was a part of something that could change the world and could probably still change the world. It's just that, and also, there is this thing that they imply that, that maybe Rod is already a mutant because, they're
It's
different colored
well,
eyes.
well, no, like
They don't
they
really
did
do
this thing of like, oh, everyone's a mutant because everyone has the ability to like change and have like these little different things about them, right? Like that's what they're going for, right? Because
anything.
Rod
Yeah,
has like
but
different colored eyes. I forget
mhm,
the word for it, but like that's just a mutation that some people have, right? Like that's just a thing, like in the real world. Like, and plenty of people have like other little different little odd mutations that sometimes make their lives miserable and not great, and other times don't really do anything to them at all. And so like,
maybe as long as the eyes are not purple, everything's good.
mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the explanation anyway.
But no, like,
So,
yeah, no,
yeah, you want to say?
no, it's just one of those things of like, yeah, I get what they're going for. It's fine. It's just kind of like, all right. It's just I just it, I like the idea of Rod, but like as a character, he was kind of just meh. I felt
He was there,
he was
and
there. That's a good
that's
explanation.
my God,
He was
that's the
there.
best thing I can. That's the best thing I can tell you. But And for all intents and purposes, it wasn't terrible. I just feel like that. And I will say, I enjoyed that in his debut episodes. He basically teams up with Mikey, and Mikey promises him, "Hey, if you get me to this lab, then I'll make you a mutant by giving you my blood." And then you find out that Mikey was actually tricking him. And I kind of find it interesting for Mikey's character because he's always like the honest one, the nice one, the I want to have friends one. You don't necessarily see Mikey trick people. So I think it's a fun little thing for his character in this version.
Hmm. And we get Pigeon Pete made.
Yeah. That's Christopher Mintz Plaza of all
Yes,
people.
I see
By
that
the
now
way,
reading it.
by the way, did you get Mikey doing the toothless hand thing to Pigeon Pete when he's created?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I see you. I see you. Something. Sometimes I'm just happy that one thing I really like references another thing I really like. I'm allowed to take the small wins.
Fair.
So, anything else to say about the first talk? I don't really have anything. I think I said everything I have to. Overall, good. Sadly, the villain is lacking.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, definitely very weak villain and very weak ending resolution to this story. And
Hmm.
like as you said, I saw like I was looking up a little bit online before we started doing this episode. It seemed like there's definitely some confusion around how it starts. Like, is this supposed to be real or fake? I assume it's supposed to be real, but I understand why a lot of people have some confusion with it, or so it
Yeah,
seems. Some people have some confusion with it
I was also like, the hell you doing?
because if it's fake, it definitely makes it feel worse. I feel, and if it's
Mhm.
real, it's fine, right? But yeah,
Actually, if it's fake, then I would say that I can kind of excuse the wonky villain writing because that's how Leo sees the villain. He's a teenager. He still doesn't get how to give them fulfilling motivations or story arcs or something. That's just how he sees
which
it.
would be
But
fair, but then that completely invalidates any and all character development you do with
there
it as
you
well, right?
go. There you go. That's the other
Like
thing.
you said,
Like
you
in
like the thing of Mikey lying to someone, right, and tricking them. That didn't happen,
yeah, and also
basically.
it does kind of goes against the thing when the turtles kind of recount how the encounter at the docks happened. Then Leo kind of and April does call him out for it. This seems really one-sided. So because each one kind of recounts it from their point of view, where they're the most correct one, and the other ones are just like stereotypes of each other. So if you're going to do that, then I can't really accept the fact I can't really accept Leo writing all everything of what we just saw when you just established that the way he told it to April is very biased to make himself look better than the
Yeah.
others.
So yeah, I assume it's very like this actually did happen. It was real, and he was just drawing a comic of things after the
Yeah,
fact.
that's how I'm seeing it too. So
We also we didn't mention it briefly, but this started the thing of like showing the different turtles in different animation styles as well, especially for their flashback stuff, which I thought
mhm,
was really cool and interesting. I did like
yeah,
that bit.
that was cool. I agree.
Again, letting the animators just have fun and do what they want to do and like go at it, always a good
Yeah,
thing. Never ends up
uh,
poorly more often than not.
that's true. So moving on to the second arc, this one is more Raphael. Even though I guess you could say it's half Raph, half April, because it's basically April editing down something for a film class, and then Raph dubs over the footage.
And we get a voice for Splinter.
Yeah, which is basically Raphael doing a Batman.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is,
Which is
and
fine. Again,
it's
they're
yeah,
clever with how they do with how they've done the stuff. Like, hey, we can't
it's
get Jackie
clever.
Chan, but like it's also kind of like, eh. I think you could have just paid for a sound alike or just someone to do a Splinter voice. We've had Splinters
Yeah.
in the past. Go get one of them. They did fine for sure for the
Mhm.
TMNT shows. Who was
You
it in the
know,
2012 show?
Hun Lee.
Yeah, he was good. Go get him again.
Yeah, I think though, if you want to mimic like that Jackie Chan voice, I would even say get I forgot his name, Glenn Berger, I think. Whoever the
Mhm.
guy is that replaces Marco as Uncle Iroh.
No, that'd be good, yeah.
Because here's the thing, I probably mentioned this in the podcast before, but in the 2007 movie, Marco was the voice of Splinter. At least, he, and because he died during production, Glenn Berger actually had to dub for him a lot of his dialogue. He actually recorded a lot of the dialogue in that movie. So
Mm.
it's like you could have he could probably do a good Jackie Chan impression, or at least if you need a voice that sounds familiar for the character.
Oh yeah, or just a good Splinter voice. Like you have a lot of choices out there. Like you have quite a few choices out there for how many Splinters there have been. Pick one, go for it. They'll be fine.
Yep. So either way, and I'm pretty sure there are good Jackie Chan impersonators out there.
So, starting off
So
with this arc, I have a complaint.
yeah, go for it.
The From what I understand, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are based off of river turtles. More often than not. Sometimes they're not, but more often than not.
To be honest with you, I am not 100% sure. I know that.
Either way, they're like they're turtles more often than not. They're definitely, I get it, there are turtles that can't, but more often than not, the TMNT turtles can breathe underwater. Why is it constantly an issue that they apparently can't breathe underwater now? Like, there are so many
um
fights that are underwater, and apparently the turtles just can't breathe.
I mean, huh? Good point.
Like, so much of this arc is like the drama of this arc is dependent on the turtles basically like, oh man, I'll drown. It's like, but you won't though. You're a turtle. Like, I get it. There are definitely turtles that cannot breathe. Like, there are tortoises. Tortoises are a thing. They're, land based tortoises cannot breathe underwater. I get it. That's not what the turtles are generally based off of, though, generally
I mean,
speaking.
again, I'm not 100% sure, and I think I think it's in Rise of the TMNT where each one is actually a different kind of turtle.
Yeah, like Raph
So
was a fucking uh red something or other. I forget the name of it. And like our Mikey was a box turtle, blah. Like, yeah, I'm aware. Like sometimes they'll do stuff like that where each of them is a different turtle and they'll base them off stuff like that. Fair, fine, nothing wrong with that. But generally speaking, the turtles can breathe underwater because they're based off of river turtles, like different river turtles.
yeah,
It feels
I
a little
guess
weird that the turtles,
either
one, like,
I
aren't good
think they
swimmers in
probably
water and can't breathe underwater. It just feels weird. It feels like,
I think I think it's just one of those. Maybe they just didn't think about it.
it's
You
just one of
know, I
those things
don't
that
know.
stuck out to me when we've seen and read other stuff from the turtles, right? That show them being really good underwater. Like that's their area. Like that's their that's their playing field, right?
Hmm.
Going in water with the turtles is probably a bad idea because that's where they shine at because they're turtles. It feels
Yeah.
weird to not do that here.
Mm.
It feels weird that they're constantly struggling. And I get it, they're going against other sea creatures that would probably be better in water than they are, which is fair, but it's constantly a thing of, oh no, I'm gonna drown. Let me get out of the water. Like, you're a turtle. Why? It's just one of those things that bothers me in the background a little bit, along with like the fighting thing, right? Where, they're constantly, I'm just constantly watching them getting their ass kicked more often than not. And it's like, I feel like you should not be struggling as much as you are again, especially again, you've been mutants for 15 years, you've been doing this for a long time, you're still teenagers, I get it, but still yet, regardless of how old these other mutants have only been mutants for like a month or two at best, like you shouldn't be struggling as much as you are. I
Yeah.
feel it feels weird. And I get it. We got to do like, oh, this is the turtles starting off again. They're learning again. So I don't know. Like, it's one of those things of like, this is kind of where I go back to. I would rather you have not done this. I would rather you have continued forward with the idea of what the movie was setting up, which was like making the turtles more accepted, do more of the school stuff, that way I can say like, okay, they're struggling in a way that is vastly different because this is a completely new territory for them, right? This is something they've
The
never
one
experienced
thing
before.
I think one thing that does kind of an episode that does do go into it is the one where Mikey and Genghis Frog go to the supermarket and they have to kind of improvise under the pressure of the of
I
Lee.
agree because Mikey's like, everyone's looking to Mikey to make decisions and figure shit out, and that's not his area of expertise. That's not what he's good at.
Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
good. Why didn't you
But
do
yet,
more of
and
that?
yeah, it's like it's great, it's good, it's even great, and again I really enjoy that, but I get you that in the way that things are, it just kind of like it happens for this one episode, and then the rest of it isn't really that. And I there is a and part in the Donnie episode where like they think that one of them actually demutated and came and went back to normal, and it's like this is actually interesting. Like if a mutant just decides that it doesn't want that, what does that mean? Like, do they still have their memories as a mutant? Does
Listen,
it erase all that? This is actually a good idea. And then again, and then they just kind of like, aha, we faked you out, haha.
but I mean, even then, right? Like that is an entire arc of a series by itself, right there. Like someone like a
Yeah.
mutant wanting to demutate. Like
Hmm.
you could do that and run with that shit, and that would be a good solid
You
couple of
know, you,
episodes, right? Or an
you know,
arc for a
actually,
character.
the second Michael Bay episode kinda does something with it.
Wow, Michael Bay did something good.
No, it's not done well at all. For the record,
Fair.
I'll tell you later.
Mm. I
Because
mean, it's
okay,
Michael Bay.
just
I
to
don't
re-
expect. I
just to
don't expect it to
really
actually be good.
just to really go through it, in the second Michael Bay movie, they kind of, not, it's not necessarily a demutation, but like the turtle, Donnie discovers that there's a way that like to make them human, and then Leo just decides that now we're not gonna do this, and Raph and Mikey finds out about this. He tells Raph, and Raph is pissed at Leo that Leo makes all the decisions for them and that he doesn't even consult them. And then when Leo actually gives them the choice to become human, they decide, you know what, we like being turtles.
What was the fucking point then, Michael? Like, all right, this is why you only go to Michael Bay for explosions. That's it. You're there
Fuck,
for. You're there.
fuck those movies in general, okay? We need, something, if you ever want a podcast where I'll just be angry all the time, we are going to cover those movies.
I think we get. I think we've
Guaranteed.
already had a few of those episodes. HC.
No, but not going in depth about why these movies are just terrible. If we actually start, we'll be here an entire day. Trust me. I can write essays about why these movies suck. Maybe I will.
Fair. But yeah, like
Anyway.
getting back to this arc.
Mhm. I will say I enjoyed the episode where it's basically Splinter and April fighting the goldfish,
Hmm.
because we barely get like an April Splinter team up, at least not one that lasts an entire episode or something, or is the focus of a story. So I like that, and I kind of enjoy that Goldfin and Splinter are kind of coming from the same thing. Again, family, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And I enjoy that they are somewhat coming from the same point, but also from the same place, but they also see the same thing in a very different light.
yeah.
I
It's
enjoy
family
that.
and what makes a home, right? And where is
Yeah.
home?
And I also enjoy that in this version, Splinter is apparently the Rat King. There isn't a guy that controls rats. Splinter is just commanding them.
They
It's
worship him.
weird. Yeah, it's weird, but you know what? I found it kind of cool.
Yeah, I
I
thought it was.
found
I
it
thought it was a little
interesting.
funny side thing. That was neat.
Hmm. And then you get then the and then you get like the Leo episode. By the way, the first episode of this arc starts with Raph, and honestly, I didn't really care for that episode all that much. It's like, yeah, okay, it's fine, sure, moving on. And then the Leo one, I enjoyed to a degree, but I think I would have liked it more if we didn't know right off the bat that this guy, that Sally is actually a part of Goldfin's crew.
Mm.
That
Also,
one, yeah.
Donnie Trejo plays Sally. Didn't expect that one. Or
Who?
Danny Trejo.
Then okay, don't know who that is. So
Oh, you don't know who Danny?
maybe not by maybe I can I just can't connect the name to the face. So
This guy.
let's see if I actually recognize something. Um, hmm. Do I know him? I'm not entirely sure. I'll look more into this later. So anyway, then so somehow all the plots are connect together again, and they go to fight the Goldfin on the boat with Bernie. By the way, of all the gangs from that, you remember in the movie that kick-ass montage where they go for where they go kick all of the leaders that Superfly controls, where
Mhm.
they go kick all the races and it kind of switches from a turtle to turtle
Yeah,
and everything. You
yeah.
remember that? What a weird thing to just bring back Bernie from that montage and be like, "Hey, I'm a villain now. I I am teaming up with a fish."
I thought that was fine. Like it works, and it's a nice little
You know,
nod to the movies, right?
like
Because he's
I
not really the
enjoyed it.
main villain here. The main villain is definitely Goldfin, the fish, the
Of course,
goldfish.
but I just found it funny that they felt that there was something about him that they're like, you know what, we want to use that character design. We're gonna bring this guy back,
Fair enough.
and yeah. So I will say the climax for this was actually really good. For this arc, I really enjoyed the climax, but again, there is something that I kind of like, kind of hate about this entire. Oh, I'm going to betray my family, and then they hear, and it's like, what do you mean? And then they just switch sides immediately. They played it for laughs, kinda, but I'm also like,
They didn't really do
really.
much with it either because it was so close to the end, right? There's not really
Yeah,
much you
again,
can do there.
you can't, because you just kind of get the backstory in one episode, and then suddenly this is your payoff. It's a The villains' backstories aren't necessarily well thought out, which I guess you could say fair because this show focuses more on the turtles, but
Yeah, but at the same time,
eh,
that's a problem because you need good villains and with good backstories, or at
yeah,
least decent backstories, to make your main characters, especially the turtles in this matter,
at
shine,
least
right?
at least it's not that the backstories are necessarily bad on paper. It's that it doesn't connect to anything that comes after.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So
I will
and
say, great final fight with Goldfin and the
yeah,
turtles. Like it's just
yeah, I can
Goldfin
say
kicking the
like,
turtles' asses again, but it still looked good.
yeah,
It
no, it
was
looked good. Like the
it.
the
They looked
scenario
good.
itself. Yeah, like the scenario itself, like in terms of the location, the shadows, the animation, the just the scale of it. It was a good climax. Again, like you said, I would have liked the turtles kicking a bit more ass. If they are the Ninja Turtles after all.
It's kind of their
But
thing, and they didn't really get to do it much. But I did love. We did get our two seasoned combatants like clash, and all the water around them briefly pauses. We got that scene, as we always get in most martial arts things, because
yeah,
we have to do that. That is like a given when
yeah,
Splinter
that's
comes
all.
in to save the day.
It's part of the rules. It's part of the rules.
It is. It's a thing that has. If it's a martial arts thing, if it's a thing for kung fu, there has to be a moment where two people like clash and all the water
Clash.
around them just kind of pauses. And in a rainy scene, like that has to happen. If it doesn't happen, you're not doing the kung fu thing right. It's a
Well,
trope.
yeah.
But we got it.
Uh,
It again looked great though. It was a good scene. I did enjoy it.
mhm. So and then this is also the part where I'm just kind of this I get because we kind of talked about everything. Now this is the point where I say I guess there's going to be a second season where we're gonna get like a Mikey arc and a Donnie arc. But here's the thing,
Potentially
apparently a
more of
season.
Goldfin and Bernie. It seems like,
Yeah.
which I
But
think
here's the
is
thing.
good because I think that'll make for a good recurring villain that we can do more with, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
And
but
maybe
here's
have
the
a
thing
stronger
though.
season.
Apparently, while initially confirmed for, excuse me, initially confirmed for 2 seasons, apparently now season two isn't officially in the works, from what I'm seeing.
Mm, probably
Yeah,
because of the
like the
movie.
which I'm not entirely sure. Like, they said that despite reportedly being greenlit for 2 seasons on announcement, Yost later said in an August 2024 interview that he was unsure if there would be a second season, but said they had plenty of ideas for one. So now I guess it's just a waiting game to see if they're ever going to announce something. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind the second season. I can see this becoming the next TMNT show. I am, but the thing is that I feel there are some cracks to fix.
I think as it stands right now, I think I would
Hmm.
rather they wait for after the second movie and hope, and if there's not going to be another movie after the second one, then they carry forward with a second season because they can do more with stuff like Shredder and other things that are more pertinent to the turtles and really kind of deep dive into it more if they want this to be
You
another turtle show.
you say that, but then again, I just checked. The movie is set to release in 2026. So we have more than 2 years until then.
So yeah, they'll then I assume they'll probably do another second season probably next year, closer to the end of the year, right? To hype up for
Mhm.
2026 for the movie in 2026, right?
Probably because another thing, we are getting a game in this universe at the end of the year. So
I think that'll be fun, especially if they kind of
mhm.
keep the styles that the show and the movie has for the game as well.
Yeah, there is a trailer. You can look it up. But yeah, it does seem like it. And to be honest, but that's the other thing that I'm thinking about. If like okay, that's all well and good that that we are getting a game out of it, because I'm always up for some TMNT games. Sure, why not make
Mm,
them good? But
for sure.
and but that's the thing though. If the show's role is to kind of hold people over with with these versions of the characters until the next movie, and the game kind of has a similar role, then what is the point of having both of them at the same time? You know what I mean? It kind of
Hmm.
feels like which one takes the bigger priority here.
I assume we'll get another season of the show like next year, but late next year, right? That way you have this season, then the game, and then like you'll have just a blank space for a time, and then a
Mhm.
second season, and
Yeah,
then that'll
could be
tide
all that.
people over for the movie.
No, to be
I'm
honest, um, I do think though that if a second season is happening, because as of right now they said we have ideas for one. So the question is, when are they actually going to greenlit it? Once they do, because I really enough didn't see a lot of like feedback on this show. I did look, but most of the stuff that I've seen have been like, it's okay, it's good,
Yeah, that's most
and
of what I saw. I saw some people weren't fond of it. Like it seemed like there might have been a little bit of a split. Like the biggest complaints I saw were a lot of people saying like, "Hey, this really like kind of similar to the complaint I had where it didn't really take anything from the movies and it didn't really continue anything from the movies in that there were things that made like a lot of people one of the biggest complaints I saw right was like, "Hey, the movie had a lot of fight and action going on in it, but it also had like a lot of good back and forth between the turtles that you didn't get here. And this felt,
yeah,
for some people, the complaint was this felt too action heavy, and there wasn't enough of the character stuff and the back and forth that you normally get from the
I,
turtles. And a lot
I
of people
can
weren't
see
fond
that.
of that. And a lot of
Yeah,
people,
it's.
from
I
what,
will
like, not a lot of
say,
people, just like the small section of people I was able to find talking about it, wanted more like character stuff and back and forth from the turtles and less action, surprisingly enough.
no, and I get that. Like I said, the idea of giving like each title its own episode to shine is kind of a cool one on paper, but I also feel that what really makes TMNT work is again the character dynamics.
Mm.
And when that and when that's kind of pushed to the side, again, it's an interesting idea for a show because we haven't really seen TMNT do something like this. I guess maybe the last Ronin, just to some degree, but even
I feel
that
like
had more of
the
a
la-
focus on the family aspect.
yeah, and the last Ronin is very it is set apart in a very different way. I feel right, like
Yeah,
considering what it's trying to
definitely.
do.
Yeah, especially again, I'm not saying that these two are anything similar
No,
to
fair,
each
fair.
other, but I'm saying though that for doing a few episodes that like maybe focus on one, because again even in some of the other shows you get that one episode that's more either Leo centric or Donatello centric or something,
Mhm.
but there's still the
Yeah,
dynamic
they're still
between the
together
brothers.
for most of that.
There's that because one of the things that makes the TMNT stand out is the brotherhood. At the end of the day, that's the one thing that a lot of people really connect to,
Yeah.
the siblings. Even as an only child, I can tell you one of the cool things about this group is the siblings. To the point that when one version makes them not siblings, oh yeah, this happens. People hate that one, and not just because of that. There are other reasons, believe me, but the brothers are kind of like the big thing. And yeah, when you have that really cool dynamic of just letting the voice actors talk and that's your dialogue, I can see why silently splitting them up and then reuniting them kind of feels a bit against the norm, but I kind of enjoyed it because it's a new take on the idea.
It's
And
different, and I agree with you. I like that, but yeah, I still wish they would have carried forward from the movie a little bit more instead of just
that's
doing these
true.
two side stories. This looks like this is my biggest complaint of it. I think the movie set forward some interesting ideas that I would have enjoyed seeing them explore, and they didn't. So, if assuming we are getting a second season, even if they want to continue kind of splitting them up for a bit and then having them all back together, like how they've been doing it for the first season, I would be fine with that. Especially if, like like you said, we might get our more Mikey centric one and our more Donnie centric one.
Yeah, but
But
then I'm also
I would
thinking,
like to see them continue some of the ideas from the movie if they do that still as well, though. But we'll see.
and I would also say that, I'm looking at this now and I'm thinking this is a cool and fresh idea for the Ninja Turtles. But I think, though, if we're getting another season, which is going to be exactly that again, like even if it's more like there's a Mikey centric arc or a Donnie centric arc, it's still gonna. I'm. How much can you repeat this one formula
That's
that you
yeah,
get
that's
just
also true. Like that's
and
also an
like that you
issue.
just get a few episodes that tell one story, and then you get a few episodes that tell another, and then you're waiting to see what happens next.
Yeah, it
It's
also might just be better to have them together instead of trying to do the separate thing again as well. You're right.
Mhm.
Because like
So,
as you say,
so another
there's
question is,
only so far you can take that and it still be enjoyable to watch, especially if you're doing it two seasons in a row. I agree with you.
like, and again, I only time would really tell if this is just that right now I'm talking as someone who's just thinking, oh, this is a cool and neat idea to do with the franchise, but how much can this idea actually last?
Yeah,
That's the interesting
it's
question.
fresh, but it can easily become not fresh, right? It can easily become like,
Mhm.
okay, you've worn out your welcome now, right? Like this isn't as good as it was. That's it's a very fine line to walk between trying something a little bit new with something that we are very familiar with and okay, this isn't new anymore and this isn't as enjoyable anymore, you know?
And I will say though, if we do get a second season of this, then you know what? Do the do a Mikey arc, do a Donnie arc, maybe do like a big finale of some sort, and move. And for the next show, go back to doing another new version, because I don't think making a bridge show is a good idea for something like the Ninja Turtles. It can work, but not in the way that they're doing this here, I think.
Yeah, I would
Because like
agree.
again, I didn't really mind that there are no heavier hints towards what's going to happen in the next movies in this universe or anything. I don't really mind that.
I agree.
But I do get you and what some other people said. You making a show about this. If you're making a show about this, then at least try and aim for what would make sense for a show. Because if you're going to be just your slice of life story, focus on the slice of life elements that you can put in there, aka the turtles in high school. and and like your random villain of the week, right?
Mm.
But in terms of actual, so I guess it also depends on what people were actually expecting walking into this
Well,
show because
something else I
this.
noticed from some of the complaints I saw online as well, right, was that people were complaining that the show felt too short. What did you think of that, real quick?
To be honest,
I felt like this was a fine length.
I think so too, but I
I
guess
feel
it
like
also
if it
depends
was
on what you mean.
longer, I from what I saw, people wanted a little bit more of the monster of the week, like they wanted a few episodes like that thrown in.
Yeah, because again, this is kind of what TMNT was up until this point.
I
So
would say I disagree with that idea personally. I think this season is the length it needs to be. I think if it was longer, personally, I think if it was longer, it would have overstayed its welcome.
yeah, because that's also another thing. This is the first time that TMNT did a mates for streaming show. They are also aiming for a completely different idea because in
Mm,
the reason that the previous shows were a villain of the week is because every week you'd get a new episode.
yeah,
Now, like maybe with Rise you'd get two a week because each one is 11 minutes, but with that being said, now you have this show that's basically telling you two complete stories because this is a streaming show now. So and TMNT can definitely work for streaming. I'm just not sure if this is the right way to go. You know, if you were to continue that show,
that's fair.
may and but in terms of length, I think it's 12 episodes, so it's like that's a normal. uh, I think that's a normal, maybe even longer compared to some other shows. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, again, I thought it was fine. I think if it was any longer, if it had more episodes, I feel like it probably would have overstayed its welcome and been less enjoyable.
Like I got through it fine enough, I suppose. I enjoyed my time. I think it was the best length it could have been,
Mhm.
and that's about it.
Agreed.
Now, what's going to happen with the rest of it, we'll have to wait and see. But up until now, I guess, talk to you in 2 months when the game releases.
Fair enough.
Anything else you want to say about this show, or should we wrap it up?
Not like I'm interested in a second season. Hopefully they do. Hopefully the second season will pull more a little bit more from the ideas of the movie and kind of run with those ideas a little bit more. But other than that, right? Like again, this wasn't for me. I didn't hate it. It just wasn't for me, right? I didn't enjoy this one as much.
And that's fair. Personally, I think it's okay enough. If you like the movie, then I think you'll enjoy this. Don't go in expecting something mind-boggling or that it's
Hmm.
actually going to give you any hints for the future. Just go in to try and have a bit of more fun times with the turtles. You'll come out of it fine.
Yeah, agreed.
Not the best, definitely not the worst though.
Agreed.
So, with that said, that's it for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed. What are your thoughts about Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? You can tell us all about it in the comment section below, on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team, and on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C. So, until the next episode, I was HC.
I was Wolf.
And until next time, take care, Kawabanga.
Bye bye.